What's up, y'all? I'm Amy Crimson, and I come from the streets of Malton, and you're watching Old Face Wrestling.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I am joined by from the streets of Molten, Amy Crimson. So thanks for joining us today, Amy.
Hello.
So Amy, I'm really excited to have you on the show. I first of all, I have to ask because I've seen some of your stuff on YouTube and all that. So I want to know, how did you come up with your character, and where did the name Amy Crimson come from?
Okay, so this is actually a funny story. So at first, when I first started wrestling, I didn't have a name. So Anthony Corelli, aka Santino Morella, he basically gave me a practice match and he just gave me a random name, Amy. So fast forward to later in the night, I was given a match and I didn't have a name. So the announcer came in and said, "You need a last name. Amy's not gonna work." So we're thinking and we're brainstorming, and then what happened was I was wearing crimson lipstick. And then she's like, "Oh, Amy Crimson." I'm like, "That works." And then that's how my name got created.
Yeah, I really like the name. I think it really stands out. It kind of reminds me of like a 90s kind of superhero kind of name or something like that from one of those old cartoons, and I really dig it because I'm a 90s kid, so anything like that reminds me of the 90s. I really like a lot. So now kind of going a little
Yeah.
bit back, in reverse. So you told me about how you came up with the name and stuff like that. What was your inspiration to becoming a professional wrestler?
So and I think it was No Mercy, I think with Eddie Guerrero and Brock Lesnar when Eddie Guerrero won the title. And then just Lita matches and Trish Stratus made me want to do wrestling. But I think just watching the match itself and the character work just draw me in at 8 years old. I was like, that's what I want to do.
So I'm assuming
And then yeah, and then
Lita was probably your favorite female wrestler growing up.
actually it was I think it was Lita, but it was also Trish Stratus because a fellow Canadian. So I gotta love Trish Stratus. But yeah, those were the two women's wrestlers that actually were my favorite growing up.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. I grew up in the
Almost like
90s. So I around the
mhm,
time where Lita and Trish really started to become a really big deal in the women's division. I
mhm,
unfortunately was going through that phase where I was in high school, and wrestling wasn't cool enough, because that's all my friends fell out of it as well. So it's I missed that
yeah.
whole entire era, and I'm
Mhm,
I regret it so much because I feel like I missed so much throughout the ruthless aggression era and stuff like that. And I'm grateful that I got back into it when I did, because I got to see the women's evolution and stuff like that. And I
mhm,
saw it before it really started to happen too. A lot of people, talk about the women's evolution with the four horsemen, but I saw it when AJ Lee and Paige,
yeah.
when they were the two top dogs in the business. So I got to at least witness that era, but I really do wish I would have seen that Lita and Trish era, especially when Mickey James came up, because I know that feud between her and Trish looked really fun as well.
Yeah, that was amazing. The thing is that I'm a ruthless aggression baby. So I was born in 98, so I grew up all throughout the ruthless aggression era. So it's the ruthless aggression era is what I grew up on.
Yeah, and
So
it looked
yeah.
like a really fun era, to be honest with you. Not even with just with the women's wrestling that we saw during that era. Undertaker, he did a lot during that era. I know that was the era where Evolution and Batista and Randy
Mhm.
Orton and John Cena, and that it really grew up in. And I think that's when Edge became the rated R superstar. So it seemed like it
Yeah.
got a lot. And if the Attitude Era wasn't so good, I think a lot of people will probably be saying like the ruthless aggression era was like the best time in wrestling and stuff like that. So it definitely seemed like a really great era. It's just like I don't know what happened to WWE. Like why did they go away with that? Because it seemed like it was working really well.
Yeah.
So now, Amy, now my next question for you. So you are a one-time Battle Arts Academy Women's Champion. So tell me a little bit about your experience winning that title and like what did it mean to you?
So recently, like when I did win the title, like I was training for like I think it was my second year training at Battle Arts Academy, and the it meant so much to me because I worked so hard. But the main reason why it was so emotional was because the same year I lost my uncle, and I made a pact to myself that I would actually win the title for my uncle. So when I won the title, it was so emotional because I wish he was there. But at the same time, it was a moment where I was like, finally, my hard work paid off. Like, I'm finally like known for something. Like, it was just overall a great experience and a great opportunity, in my opinion.
So like going into that, like how does it feel like because I like to ask this to like all the wrestlers that I have on my show, like when they win their first title, like knowing that you're going to win the title before the match, like obviously you can't necessarily go out there and show and have that like win face on because then it kind of gives it away
Yeah.
to like the fans and stuff like that. How do you bottle up all those emotions and then when you finally like win it, then you can finally let it out?
So going into the match, I was actually a heel, turning a face. So after I would win the title, I would turn face. But the thing is that like I had to basically stop myself from telling all my family members and everything, like, hey, come to the show, I'm gonna be winning, because it would like ruin the surprise because I didn't want them cheering for me because I was a heel at the time. But honestly, it was very nerve-wracking, just like the whole experience, like when you're just a small, like, well, you're green, and then you're going into like basically like a main event kind of thing where you're going for a title. It's very nerve-wracking, but I guess it's just with showing some emotion and everything. So that's how I handled it, kind of.
And I think that's like really interesting that you were going in as a heel and then leaving as a face. Like I can understand like that's definitely a challenge, you know, really early in your career, kind of having that turn. Cause I understand like in wrestling, like heel turn or a face turn is really important. That like really sets the tone for whatever character you're going into. Like if the heel turn is really epic, that really like starts everything off like really hot and gets people interested. And then
Yeah,
vice versa. Like when you turn face, it has to be believable or people aren't going to grasp
yeah.
it right away. And I think that's always very important.
Hmm. Oh, I agree 100%.
So now my next question, being, you know, and you know, you like you mentioned being green in the business and stuff like that. Tell me about like some of the biggest challenges that you have, you know, being, you know, like new to the business and stuff like that, because obviously if you're a well established name, you're going to get all the bookings and everyone's going to want you. But when you're new,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more challenging. So tell me about some of the things that you do to try to kind of like get your name out there and
Um,
stuff.
well, the thing is that like the couple matches that I did was like in an all women's match. I don't know if you saw it on YouTube. It was with Rebel and Casey Spinelli, and it was with Allison Kay. And that was one of the matches that actually boosted my career, where people got to know where my name was. To basically help my career, like I try and like do as many promos and like vignettes as I can on my social media, since like especially since now COVID has stopped wrestling in Ontario completely, so it's very hard, especially now, to get bookings unless you're like outside of Ontario. I also like try to post my matches as much as possible, or like just try to get as much recognition as possible so that my name can be elevated as like someone who's like greener than other people. So that's what I try to do as much as possible.
Exactly. And that's like the one beauty about like the popularity of social media. Like everyone has it, and it's usually like a lot of people are pretty addicted to it. So it's like if you get your name out there on social media, that could really help, you know, set things off because there's a lot of wrestlers I know about that I wouldn't know about without social media, just because of the fact that, back in the day, it was all word to mouth or something like that. Like it was a lot
Yeah.
harder. And now, social media, everyone has it, like pretty much, even like, our parents and stuff like that. Even some people, their
Yeah.
grandparents have it. Like it's the best way to really get your name and your brand out there. And it does a lot. Just, I know at the same time, as good as it could be for your career, it could be really bad. Like people like will dig up tweets and
Yeah.
stuff like that you posted 10 years ago, and you're not even that same person anymore, but they'll judge you for it. And we've seen that happen in WWE where wrestlers get released based off of something
Yeah.
they posted years in the past. So it's like it's a good thing, but then it also can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
So now, I have to ask that. I know you are a little bit newer to the business and stuff like that, but like as far as like match stipulations, I understand like match stipulations can really be fun. They could be painful depending on what it is. Is there any type of stipulation that you're really wanting to do that you haven't done yet?
Honestly, I would love to be in like a Hell in a Cell or a ladder match, any type of those type of matches. Cause like I grew up watching it and like it's a great experience overall. So like I would actually love to do any type of those. I actually was like able to do like a kind of like a Royal Rumble type of match, which was really fun. And surprisingly, like I feel like all those match types would be really fun to do.
So speaking of like ladder match and Hell in a Cell match, because I know you said that's something that you really want to do. Would you ever do any kind of like leap of faith off the top of a ladder, like do something like crazy like Jeff Hardy would do?
I would probably like possibly do like maybe like a cross body. In some of my matches, like I haven't done anything like too crazy, but like I feel like once I start wrestling again, like I might want to dip my toe in the water and like maybe do a little crazy stuff kind of thing. So I wouldn't be not against it. I would actually try it.
What about maybe like an elbow drop off the top of a Hell in a Cell, kind of like Shane McMahon style?
See, that's tempting, but I don't want to die after. That's the crazy part. I don't want to die after, but I feel like I would try it just for the sake of it for the fans. I would try it.
It would
For the
definitely be
inner
something that
wrestling
people would
fan in me,
talk
I would try it.
about. Because
Yeah.
I still to this day, like here and there, I'll get on YouTube and watch, like Shane McMahon do the elbow drop, the Undertaker at WrestleMania 32. And it's like it's something that people remember. It's just like you said, you don't want to die. And I can't like imagine what like some of these wrestlers think when they do stuff like that. Do they think that there's any chance that that may be the last move they ever do? Like it's just scary. Like I don't care how safe and cautious you are, like that's a long fall and it's going to hurt. Like you could land on the bed and I feel like it's still gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But now for my next question that I have, and
Your
this
wind knocked
is
out of you kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. So now for my next question. Now this is I'm going out of the wrestling world and we're gonna talk about like kind of like real life. So tell me something about yourself that has nothing to do with wrestling that you're really proud of, or it could be a hobby, just anything. Like what about you like you're just really proud of?
So actually, like I do outside of wrestling, I train judo. So like I'm a green belt in judo. And I also actually obtained my personal training certification and I'm going for my nutritionist certificate. So outside of wrestling, I'm like a personal trainer and nutritionist.
Okay, that's really cool. And I could definitely get some tips on
Yeah.
nutrition. I have a really bad diet and I'm trying to get healthier and stuff like that. And there's a few wrestlers I've had on my show. They've like talked about like a lot about nutrition. I'm like, I need to start like talking to you more because like I really need to learn more about that. But I think I saw something on your bio on Twitter about like the judo thing. So I think
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about that anyway, and you perfect you brought it up. So how did you get into that?
So when I first started at Battle Arts Academy, Anthony was actually telling us that it's so important to cross train while you're a wrestler so that you can basically get like more knowledge of like wrestling moves and stuff. So I basically dipped my like feet inside judo and then I was like a little skeptical of it and I didn't know if I was gonna like it or not. But then like the moment I started doing it, I was like, this is fun. And then um fast forward like like I think 2 years in, I obtained my green belt. So it was kind of cool. And then if you look in some of my matches, like you can see some of the judo throws and some of the submissions like in judo that like I do during a match. And it helped me overall with like my skills with wrestling and just like my footwork and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it could be like another element that you add to your repertoire of wrestling stuff. And because I know there's a wrestler I had on my show like 2 or 3 months ago, Janai Kai. She does karate and martial
Yeah.
arts. So it's like she kind of uses that as her character. And I seen like plenty of wrestlers who like have those additional skills and they use that to in the ring. And like Brock Lesnar, like he'll do UFC moves because he actually knows, he's done MMA and stuff like that. So I think that's a really cool thing that, like you said, it's good the cross
Yeah.
train and stuff like that. So is like this may be a dumb question, but with judo, like you mentioned that you just obtained your green belt recently,
Yeah.
is it like karate with the same colors and stuff like that, like it's black belt, like the highest you can go?
So I believe the black belt is the highest you can go, and I believe for judo you have to take a test, like an Ontario test. But I think the colors are so you start off with white that you're given, and then you go yellow, orange, um, green, blue, brown, and I think it's red. I'm not too sure. I think because red is like below the sensei. So
Gotcha. Do you have plans on getting to the black belt eventually?
I was hopefully I was like hoping that like I could obtain my black belt, but then COVID happened where I was hoping to get my blue belt, but then like it basically stopped everything. So like we're not even able to train in like our dojo or nothing like because of COVID. So like hopefully when COVID's all done, I can get all the rest of the belts and then like be like a full black belt in judo to help with my wrestling.
And like, how long does the process take to go from belt to belt? Is there like a time frame where you have to train, or is it kind of you just have to like pass like certain tests and all?
So I believe it's like it took me to get my green belt at least 2 years of training in battle arts. I don't know if it was like if it's different per sensei, but I know that Anthony was my sensei and it basically took me like a couple months to like get each belt. So like within 2 years I went from a white belt to a green belt. So like in that kind of time frame.
Gotcha. See, I didn't know if like in between belt you had to train for like 6 months, regardless of how good you are, like you had to do it for a certain amount of time, or if it was just kind of like you pass these tests and you get it, like kind of thing. So I never knew how it worked. I never really thought to ask until now, but yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's pretty interesting. So now, I got two more questions for you.
Okay,
Now,
no worries.
this one is indies wrestling, and the other one's kind of like the WWE kind of question. So now for this
Yeah.
question, what are some of your most desired opponents that are currently in the indies that you really want to go toe to toe with?
I know I like had a tag team match with Allison Kay, but I would love to have like a singles match with her. Like that would be amazing. I would also like for like the Indies women's. This is hard because there's so many, but I would love to like wrestle like anyone like in like AEW or like Lucha Underground or like Impact. I think even Havoc. Like I would love to have a match with Havoc. That those are one of the dream matches for the Indies.
Now for this next question, this is similar because I wanted to make sure that I kind of asked this in two different forms. So now the next question: if you were given the opportunity to wrestle at WrestleMania and you could pick any opponent on the planet, any promotion, who would you want to go in the ring with?
Mm, I would actually choose Becky Lynch because I know that she's like a really great worker. And like I would actually love to go toe to toe with Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Or even Asuka. Like Asuka is like one of my inspirations because she was trained by Toy. And Toy actually was training us at Battle Arts for a bit. So it would be amazing to go like one on one with like her same type of style because we were trained in the same style. So that would be great.
And that's funny you mentioned them both because I know they had their on and off feuds throughout the years as well, and they had some great matches.
Yeah.
Would you add like a stipulation to that match, or would you just want it to be just a plain old, regular singles match?
I would actually want to put like a submission match because since like with Asuka especially since like she was trained with Toy and I know Toy like teaches us so many submissions that it would just be an overall great match and learning experience because there'd be so many submissions just thrown around. And it'd just be a great chaining wrestling match, like I think.
That
So
would
yeah.
just be that sounds really fun. That would be really fun in general to see. Like I don't know if they've done anything like that recently with the women, like an I quit match or a submission match or something like that. Like from my knowledge, I can't remember the last time they've done something like that. But in general, that'd be really fun to see with the women.
Yeah, that would be great.
Exactly. So, Amy Crimson, so I have to thank you so much for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. That was a really fun interview, and the part of the reason why I like adding the question about like non-wrestling related stuff is because I like to learn about different things, because you'd be surprised like the kind of things that
Yeah.
people say, and then I get to add or ask additional questions to that, and it's like
Yeah.
I get educated, everyone listening gets educated, and I think it's always really fun learning about different things, and like
Yeah.
MMA, judo, stuff like that. It's always something I'm not too familiar with, so it's always nice learning
Yeah.
stuff like that. So do you want to share your social media so all the listeners know where to find you?
So all my social medias are all the same. If you're looking for me on TikTok, it's Amy Crimson XOXO. Instagram, Amy Crimson XOXO, and then Twitter, the same thing. And then if you guys want to check up on my YouTube, majority of my matches are on my Amy Crimson page. So if you just search up Amy Crimson Wrestling, you should be able to find majority of my matches. And I also have a Facebook page if you guys want to check it out.
All right, everyone, make sure you follow
And that's
Amy
it.
Crimson on everything. I will put the links to all those social media platforms on the bio. And I have to mention that you're the first wrestler to mention that you have a TikTok, and I'm like really happy to hear that, because I know TikTok is getting really popular, and I feel like more people need to get into it. And I feel like not enough wrestlers have it yet. So I think that's really cool to see that you have that and that you're utilizing that and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Gotta use what you got.
exactly.
Make it.
And yeah, and everyone also make sure you give us a subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And thank you all again for tuning in, and thank you, Amy, for joining us today on O Face Wrestling.
Make it.
Bye, everyone.